Hello everyone. Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. In this episode, I will recap the plot of a Spanish action movie that tells the story of a bomb attack at an airport in Spain. The story revolves around a taxi driver who helps one of the victims, but it turns out that the victim he helped is the bomber who ends up taking the driver hostage. This film was released in September 2023 and has a rating of 5.7 out of 10 stars on IMDb. So, make sure your gadgets are in top condition. And here is the complete plot of the movie, All the Name of God. We are introduced to a taxi driver named Santiago Gomez Lazardi. Like most taxi drivers, he drives around the city looking for passengers from night until morning. When morning comes, he stops by his favorite restaurant for breakfast. There we are also introduced to his fellow taxi driver, Ramon. After finishing breakfast, Santiago gets back to work. During his journey, a female passenger asks him to take her to the airport. Upon arriving at the airport, after the payment is made, the passenger gets out of the taxi. Soon after, his wife Laura calls. In their conversation, Laura asks how he's doing and invites him to have lunch together. After ending the call, Santiago continues with his work. After the bomb explosion in the parking area, Santi helps an injured man by putting him in his car. His intention is to take the man to the nearest hospital. However, the man suddenly points a firearm at him and orders him to move away. The man is later identified as Hamza, one of the suicide bombers. Meanwhile, the news on TV about the explosion wakes up Santi's son, Raul. Raul is told that his father was at the airport when the explosion happened. In a panic, Raul keeps trying to call Santi, but there is no answer. Elsewhere, at the terrorist group's headquarters, their leader realizes that Hamza's signal is still active. He says, "One bomb failed to explode. The remote detonator isn't working." At the same time, Selma, Hamza's sister, wakes up and receives a voice message from her brother. In the message, Hamza says, "By the time you hear this message, I will already be in heaven." Selma immediately goes to her mother and plays the voice message. Soon after, the TV broadcasts news about the bomb attack at the airport, revealing that Hamza was one of the perpetrators. Selma tells her mother, "We have to report this to the police." However, her mother refuses and says, "Hamza is not a killer, he was just deceived." In the next scene, Laura, along with Raul and Ramon, goes to the airport to search for Santi. However, they are stopped by the police officers on duty there. The police ask them to move away from the crime scene, CSU, and inform them that all the injured victims have already been evacuated to the hospital. The story then moves to the headquarters of the Spanish National Police. There, we are introduced to a female police officer named Pilar Montero. In an emergency meeting with high-ranking police officials, Pilar says, "We need to find out who the perpetrators are before the situation escalates further." Through tracking CCTV footage at the airport, they eventually manage to identify one of the perpetrators. Next, Hamza and Santi are seen stopping at a gas station. They enter the convenience store to shop. After shopping, they stop by a public restroom. There, Hamza asks Santi to stay quiet and not do anything foolish while he tries to disarm the bomb strapped to his body by cutting the wires. After cutting the bomb wires, Hamza places the bomb in the car's trunk. However, the signal from the bomb still appears active. He then asks Santi to open the car's GPS and direct the vehicle to drive over the bomb. Meanwhile, through CCTV footage, the three suicide bombers are identified. However, according to police reports at the crime scene, only 2 bombs exploded, not 3. Based on this information, the police conclude that 1 bomb failed to detonate, and the perpetrator managed to escape. The 3 perpetrators are then publicly announced through TV news: Mansour, 20 years old, Malik, 18 years old, and Hamza, 19 years old. All of the perpetrators are Spanish citizens of Moroccan descent. Until then, there was no solid evidence linking them to a jihadist terrorist network. In a meeting with the minister, it is reported that none of the perpetrators had a criminal record or suspicious profiles. In fact, all their social media accounts were fake. However, the investigation discovered that they were closely connected to a terrorist named Kadar Abadi, who had been arrested a few years earlier. As a result, the police decided to interrogate Kadar Abadi in prison. At the same time, in the hospital, Laura and Raul continue to search for Santi, but the nurse tells them that there is no name of Santi on the list of bombing victims. Back with Santi, they finally arrive at a dam outside the city of Spain. There, Hamza ties Santi's hands and then takes the bomb to the reservoir and throws it into the water. Meanwhile, the police begin interrogating Kadarabadi in prison. They ask him to identify the perpetrators and reveal the location of their hideout. However, Kadar claims that they all used fake identities and that he doesn't know them. A police officer then says, "Tell us what you know, and your life will be easier in prison. If not, you'll rot in solitary confinement forever, with no one caring. Meanwhile, your comrades out there will live freely and continue to deceive others to do their dirty work. That's the hell you'll get here if you don't cooperate." Hearing this, Kadar finally provides information about one person involved with Hamza and his group's terrorist network. The military police immediately move to capture that individual. The man they captured is named Saidi. For the past 2 months, he had been sharing an apartment with Mansour and Jalaf. However, from the interrogation, Saidi claims he had no knowledge of Mansour and Jalaf's true intentions. Meanwhile, Ramon asks Laura for her phone to track Santi's car GPS. They manage to find the last known location of Santi. Back with Santi, he asks Hamza to untie him, claiming he needs to go to the bathroom. After a while, since Santi takes too long, Hamza goes to check on him. However, Santi seizes the opportunity to attack Hamza. Even so, it seems Hamza regrets his actions, because he didn't intend to shoot Santi. While they are sitting together, Santi asks, "Why did you deactivate the bomb at the airport?" Hamza replies, "Because I'm a coward. I'm afraid of dying. When I think of the face of Allah, the face that appears is my mother's." At the terrorist headquarters, the signal detected at the reservoir leads one of the members to ask a colleague to go there to capture Hamza. Back with Laura and Ramon, they arrive at the gas station where Santi and Hamza had previously stopped. There, they continue searching for Santi's trail. Raul and Laura eventually find the damaged GPS from Santi's car. After finding the GPS, they report it to the police. The police then track the CCTV footage from the gas station's convenience store and find a recording showing Santi with Hamza. Pilar, upon seeing Santi's face on the screen, says, "It seems that Santi is being held hostage by the perpetrator." She then orders that Hamza's family be brought to the police station. During the interrogation, Selma, Hamza's sister, says that after disappearing for several years and returning from Morocco, Hamza started going to the mosque every day. "He never used to do that," Selma adds. Hamza's mother says, "My son just wants to be a good Muslim." Back with Santi, it seems he is extremely exhausted while driving. The same goes for Hamza, who appears to be asleep in the back seat. Meanwhile, Santi is struggling to stay awake as the drowsiness grows stronger. Santi survives and has the chance to escape from Hamza, as Hamza appears to be unconscious. However, whether out of pity or something else, Santi approaches Hamza and tries to help him. At the same time, Laura receives a call from Pilar, asking her to come to her office. There, Pilar shows Laura the CCTV footage that shows Santi with Hamza in the convenience store. Pilar informs Laura that Santi is currently being held hostage by the third perpetrator, who didn't detonate his bomb at the airport. Meanwhile, at her home, Selma and her family are being harassed by journalists, trying to interview them, and waiting outside their house. Additionally, Selma receives insulting messages from her neighbors about herself and her family. Back with Santi, he finally manages to get Hamza to the side of the road. Soon after, a vehicle arrives and stops there. Santi thinks that the person might be coming to help him. However, when Santi regains consciousness after fainting, he finds himself wearing a vest filled with explosives. The phone in front of him rings, and he answers the call from the terrorist. "Now you will finish what the coward Hamza couldn't. Once this call is over, the bomb in your vest will be activated. It works with a very sensitive motion sensor. This means that to prevent the bomb from detonating, you must keep walking without stopping. If you stop, you will die." After that, the terrorist ends the call, and the bomb is immediately activated. Santi quickly walks outside, trying to find help. However, the people who see him immediately run away in fear, asking for help. The anti-terrorism police team, who received the report, quickly arrive at the scene, including Pilar, who also gets there. The bomb disposal unit immediately moves in to approach Santi. Santi is given an earpiece to communicate with Pilar outside the building. Jesus, the bomb expert, follows Santi closely to study the type of explosives he is wearing. Pilar continues to communicate with Santi to keep him calm. Santi is also told that his family is safe at the police headquarters. Santi explains everything he has gone through to Pilar, from his encounter with Hamza, who held him hostage at the airport, the car accident, to Hamza being shot dead by the person who captured him and strapped the bomb to his body. After hearing Santi's explanation, Pilar asks for the phone he is using to be handed over to Jesus. After identifying the explosives on Santi, Jesus comes out and reports to Pilar. There are 22 units of explosives, and there are 3 locks in the openings, says Jesus. This bomb is equipped with a motion sensor and a phone to detonate remotely. The victim must keep walking, so it is impossible to disarm the bomb here. Therefore, to minimize the impact of the explosion, Santi must be moved to a safer location. They decide to move Santi to an industrial area, about 10 kilometers outside the city, far from residential areas. Soon after, the terrorist calls the phone he entrusted to Santi, and Pilar answers. The terrorist tells Pilar that Santi should be allowed to walk toward downtown Madrid. If Santi doesn't arrive within 5 minutes, the bomb will be activated and explode. The entire world will witness the explosion. After receiving approval and orders from their superiors at the headquarters, Santi is finally escorted by the anti-terrorism unit to walk toward downtown Madrid.
Necesito hablar con mi mujer. Se lo agradezco de verdad, pero cree que tengo algo.
Santiago, soy Pilar de...
Back at the headquarters, Laura and Raúl are informed that Santi has been found. At first, Laura and Raúl feel relieved upon hearing the news. However, their happiness turns to sadness when all the TV stations broadcast images of Santi walking in the middle of the city with the explosive vest strapped to his body. The broadcast is witnessed by many people, including Ramon, the terrorist, as well as Selma and her mother. The military announces to the public that the person being escorted is not a terrorist, but an ordinary Spanish citizen who has become a victim of terrorism. Pilar, who is still monitoring Santi, looks at her screen and suddenly gets a brilliant idea. She immediately informs her plan to her superior at the command center. Pilar plans to deceive the terrorists by securing Santi without their knowledge. How will you do it? Her superior asks. Through manipulation of the TV broadcast, Pilar replies. We will play the video of Santi walking repeatedly, so the terrorists will think it's a live broadcast, when in fact it's not. To do this, we will shut down the internet in Madrid for a few hours, so no one can watch the live feed of Santi's condition on social media. Meanwhile, at Selma's house, she continues to beg her mother not to give up, saying that if Santi dies, they will all die. Pilar and her team then begin executing their plan, starting with editing the video that contains footage of Santi walking with his escort convoy. This way, they can continue moving and alternate images, so some of the footage can be hidden and replaced with shots of empty streets. Next, the terrorist calls his colleague and says, "Speed up the mission." "Which number should I press?" asks the colleague. "Press number 1, the terrorist responds. However, unbeknownst to them, their communication is being intercepted, and their location is pinpointed. The terrorist then presses the phone, activating the phone in Santi's vest, and the countdown begins. In 21 minutes, Santi starts to panic and informs Pilar. However, Pilar reassures him, "Stay calm, we're here." At the same time, after finishing the video editing, the team informs Pilar that the video is ready to be aired. The internet in the city is then shut down to prevent any unwanted live broadcasts. After that, the edited video, which is not a live broadcast, is aired, and Pilar instructs Santi to turn right beside a building. Meanwhile, the terrorist watching the TV remains unaware of what is actually happening, as the screen shows Santi still walking down the street in Madrid, wearing the bomb disposal suit. Jesus then asks Santi to get into the van and walk on the treadmill. While they were together, the young boy made an outgoing call and redialed a number, causing the phone in Santi's vest to ring again, making the countdown accelerate. Seeing this, Jesus immediately cut the latch on the vest to remove it from Santi's body. The young boy then put the phone away and covered it with a cloth. Soon after, his mother came to collect the clothes for washing and accidentally discovered the phone. She saw the outgoing call and pressed the number displayed on the phone's screen. The next scene reports that Santi was successfully rescued thanks to the heroic actions of a collaboration between the security forces and the media crew. The terrorists' mission failed, and they quickly left the area. That evening, Santi's family came to see him, and the film ended. That's it for this episode, guys. Please continue to support this channel by clicking the subscribe button. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment if you enjoyed this video. See you in the next gadget videos. See you, and thank you.